They were the experts who chased storms for a living, armed with science and satellites, certain they could outsmart nature. But on May 31st, 2013, near Reno, Oklahoma, the most unpredictable tornado in history shattered every rule, swelling to a world record 2.6 miles wide, hiding lethal vortices inside walls of rain, and stalking even the best who tried to study it. For the first time ever, seasoned researchers were caught and killed, leaving the storm-chasing community in shock and forcing scientists to question everything they thought they knew. How did this tornado become the hunter, not the hunted? Meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center began the day with a rare and urgent warning. Central Oklahoma faced a particularly dangerous situation, or PDS, for tornadoes. The atmospheric ingredients were all present for a violent outbreak. Warm, moisture-laden air surged north from the Gulf of Mexico, colliding with a dry line slicing through the plains. High above, powerful winds streaked eastward, creating extreme wind shear, layers of air moving at different speeds and directions. This combination, explosive instability known as CAPE, deep layer shear, and a triggering boundary, meant the environment was primed for supercells, the parent storms of the most violent tornadoes. Forecasts called for storms capable of producing long-track, intense tornadoes. The language in the outlooks was unusually direct, even for seasoned forecasters. Terms like high risk and PDS were reserved for only the most threatening setups. Meteorologists referenced CAPE values soaring above 4,000 joules per kilogram, a measure of the atmosphere's potential energy. Wind profiles showed classic looping hodographs, signaling the likelihood of rotating updrafts and mesocyclones. Every model run pointed to the same conclusion. Any storm that formed could quickly become tornadic, and any tornado could be strong or violent. Word spread quickly through the storm-chasing and research communities. For many, this was the kind of day that justified years of training and investment in technology. The certainty in the forecast brought a sense of purpose and anticipation. Teams from universities, media outlets, and independent researchers made plans to converge near Reno, Oklahoma, where the parameters looked most favorable. Even amateur enthusiasts, tracking the forecast online, packed their gear and set out to witness nature at its most powerful. As the afternoon wore on, the sky grew heavy and humid. Radios crackled with updates. Scientists fine-tuned their instruments, checking radar feeds and GPS trackers. For all their caution, there was confidence, a belief that with experience, data, and the latest tools, they could predict and outmaneuver whatever the atmosphere produced. The stage was set, not just for a tornado, but for a confrontation between human expertise and the raw, unpredictable forces of nature. By late afternoon, the roads south of Reno had become a maze of headlights and idling engines. More than 150 chase vehicles, research vans, news trucks, SUVs, and sedans, loaded with cameras and laptops, pressed into the rural grid. The draw of a high-risk tornado day had pulled in professionals and hobbyists alike, each hoping for a front-row seat to nature's violence. But the local infrastructure was never meant for this kind of crowd. Most routes here were single-lane dirt or gravel carved between open fields with barely enough room for 2 cars to pass. At key intersections like Reformatory Road and Alphadale Road, vehicles lined up bumper to bumper as far as the eye could see. Some drivers tried to turn around, only to find themselves boxed in by others doing the same. Others pulled off into ditches or open fields, desperate for a way out when the sky began to darken. Dispatch logs from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol captured the chaos. Urgent calls about blocked roads, stalled convoys, and cars stuck in mud. Dashcam footage later revealed backup stretching for hundreds of meters, with chasers forced to a crawl or a complete stop. The narrow grid, spaced a mile apart, offered few escape options once the traffic jam took hold. With every passing minute, the sense of anticipation shifted to unease as the storm drew closer. The sheer number of vehicles, combined with the limited rural roadways, turned the chase field into a bottleneck. Escape routes that looked clear on a map became useless as lines of cars clogged the exits. For many, the thrill of pursuit was quietly replaced by the realization that, if the storm shifted, there would be nowhere to run. The spectacle of science and curiosity had become a crowded, vulnerable target, hemmed in by the very roads that once promised freedom. At 6:03 p.m., a slender funnel touched down in a field just southwest of Reno. Within moments, it began to swell, drawing in moisture and debris from the saturated air. What started as a narrow rope transformed at a staggering rate. In less than a minute, the tornado expanded from a few hundred yards to more than a mile wide, a pace almost unheard of in tornado science. Chasers watching from a distance saw the storm's outline blur, as if the landscape itself was being swallowed. Mobile radar teams scrambled to adjust their positions, but the tornado's growth outpaced even the most rapid calculations. The wind field broadened so quickly that safe distances evaporated. Vehicles that had been parked on the margins now found themselves inside a danger zone that didn't exist seconds before. The tornado's outer circulation, invisible in the rain, swept outward at nearly 30 miles per hour, while the core advanced with a separate, unpredictable speed. By 6:05 p.m., the tornado had already reached a width of over a mile, and it showed no sign of slowing. Chasers who had relied on years of experience and the latest technology were forced to abandon their usual strategies. Escape routes that had seemed clear on the map were now cut off by a storm that refused to behave like any before it. Less than 15 minutes after touchdown, the tornado reached its maximum width, 2.6 miles across. It became the widest tornado ever documented, a sprawling force that defied the familiar rules of storm structure and movement. The sheer scale of the wind field made it impossible to judge where safety ended and danger began. For the scientists and chasers on the ground, the storm's explosive growth was not just a spectacle, but a threat that changed the rules in real time, leaving almost no margin for error. The tornado's true danger lay hidden, cloaked by sheets of rain and driven by a structure that defied every familiar pattern. Instead of a clear funnel, the Reno tornado became a swirling wall of water and debris, its core invisible to anyone on the ground. Inside this shroud, smaller tornadoes, sub-vortices, spun violently, some lasting only seconds, others persisting long enough to carve their own paths of destruction. These sub-vortices, racing around the parent circulation, created pockets of extreme wind that could strike without warning. Radar teams, even those equipped with the most advanced mobile Doppler systems, struggled to keep pace. The data pouring in from the field lagged behind reality, by precious minutes. By the time a southeast hook or sudden acceleration appeared on a radar screen, the wind field had already shifted, and the threat was upon those in its path. The tornado's forward motion was only part of the story. Its outer circulation expanded at nearly 30 miles per hour, while the core sometimes lurched forward at more than 50. This meant the zone of danger could advance on a stationary vehicle at highway speeds, even if the tornado itself seemed distant. For chasers and residents alike, the usual cues, visual contact with the funnel, radar signatures, even the roar of approaching wind, were rendered useless. The rain-wrapped structure masked the tornado's true edges, and the sub-vortices moved independently, sometimes splitting off, sometimes merging back into the main circulation. Standard radar, designed to scan broad atmospheric features, could not resolve these hidden threats in real time. Even the best phased array systems suffered from processing delays and limited resolution at close range. Warnings issued based on these tools often described a northeastward track, while the tornado on the ground veered southeast, then east, then northeast again. The disconnect between electronic eyes and the storm's actual behavior left those in the field exposed. For the Twistex team and others caught in the chaos, the tools they trusted could not reveal the invisible danger closing in. The El Reno tornado was not just wide, it was elusive, unpredictable, and, in its most lethal moments, nearly impossible to see or track by any means available. Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Young drove south of El Reno in a Chevrolet Cobalt, a car chosen for its speed and maneuverability on rural roads. Their mission that afternoon was clear: deploy scientific probes directly in the tornado's path, collecting data from inside the storm, information that could help save lives in the future. Years of experience and a reputation for caution shaped every move they made. But on May 31st, 2013, the atmosphere did not reward caution. GPS data and radar records show the Twistex team tracking the tornado from the west, navigating a maze of gravel roads as the storm's circulation ballooned outward. They kept a careful distance, watching for signs of the tornado's true path. But the storm's expansion was faster than anything they had seen. In less than a minute, the wind field swept outward, engulfing roads that had seemed clear only seconds before. The Cobalt's low profile and light weight, an advantage for probe deployment, offered little protection as the tornado's sub-vortices closed in. The team attempted to escape south along U.S. Highway 81, relying on the storm's expected northeast track. But the tornado veered sharply southeast, a move that radar could not predict in real time. A hidden sub-vortex struck the Cobalt with catastrophic force. Paul Samaras and Carl Young were ejected. Tim Samaras, still buckled in, was found inside the wreckage. All three died almost instantly. For the first time, a tornado had claimed the lives of professional storm chasers in the field. Their loss sent shockwaves through the meteorological community, a reminder that even the best-trained, best-equipped experts are not immune to nature's most unpredictable violence. Survival on May 31st, 2013, often came down to seconds and luck. As the tornado's wind field exploded outward, not everyone in its path met the same fate. The Weather Channel team, led by meteorologist Mike Betts, tried to escape south on Highway 81 in a Chevrolet Tahoe. Without warning, a sub-vortex swept across the road, lifting their SUV and tossing it nearly 200 yards into a field. The vehicle landed upright, windows shattered, frame twisted. Betts and his crew crawled from the wreck, battered and bleeding, but alive. Lacerations, bruised ribs, a fractured bone, injuries that could have been far worse. Betts later described the experience as being inside a blender, admitting that no amount of experience or preparation could have anticipated the tornado's behavior that day. Others were not so fortunate. Richard Henderson, a local resident and amateur photographer, pulled over on a gravel road east of Highway 81 to capture the storm with his phone. His final image, time-stamped just moments before the tornado changed course, shows a dark mass swallowing the horizon. Henderson tried to flee, but the tornado's sudden turn and hidden sub-vortices overtook his car. He was found in a nearby field, his vehicle destroyed by the winds. Henderson's death, like those of the Twistex team, underscored the randomness of survival, how a shift in the wind or a moment's hesitation could mean the difference between life and death. Across the chase field, dozens of vehicles were damaged or rolled, with survivors describing debris flying from every direction and escape routes vanishing in seconds. The chaos left many questioning the risks they had taken and whether their knowledge or equipment had ever truly offered protection against a storm that broke every rule. 8 lives were lost in the El Reno tornado, including some of the most respected names in storm research. Among the dead were Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Young, veteran chasers whose deaths sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Alongside them, Richard Henderson, a local resident and amateur photographer, was killed when his car was hurled from a rural road. The storm did not discriminate. Vehicles designed for speed and safety were mangled beyond recognition. Ordinary passenger cars were tossed hundreds of yards. In total, 151 people were injured, many of them storm chasers, journalists, and residents who had believed they understood the risks. First responders arrived to scenes of chaos scattered across the rural grid. Emergency crews navigated blocked roads, overturned vehicles, and fields littered with debris. They found survivors climbing from wreckage, dazed and bleeding, some with broken bones, others with deep cuts from flying glass and metal. For many, the outcome had come down to seconds and luck. The relatively low death toll, given the tornado's size and power, was a result of its path over mostly open land. Had the core crossed denser neighborhoods, the number of casualties would have been far higher. The scale of destruction was measured not by flattened homes, but by the toll on people and vehicles. First responders cataloged battered SUVs, shattered windshields, and roads choked with debris. The numbers, 8 dead, 151 injured, hinted at the storm's potential for even greater tragedy. In the aftermath, the focus shifted from counting losses to asking difficult questions about how such a catastrophe could unfold, even in a community of experts. Controversy erupted in the aftermath, not just over the tragedy itself, but over how to measure and understand a storm that broke every rule. The National Weather Service initially rated the El Reno tornado as an EF5, citing mobile radar readings of 302 miles per hour, some of the highest winds ever recorded on Earth. But the enhanced Fujita scale, by design, relies on damage to structures, not radar data alone. Because the tornado's most violent winds swept across open fields rather than buildings, the official rating was later downgraded to EF3. Many meteorologists and engineers challenged this decision, arguing that the storm's true power had been underestimated. The debate exposed a gap between what science could measure and what the rating system could acknowledge. Within the storm-chasing community, the loss of respected researchers forced a reckoning. Leaders called for a new approach, one that prioritized safety over adrenaline and footage. Teams began adopting stricter protocols, maintaining wider margins from the storm, coordinating escape routes, and sharing real-time location data to avoid traffic jams and bottlenecks. Media organizations and research groups revised their insurance requirements and training standards, emphasizing risk assessment and communication. Some chasers resisted, holding to the old ethos of getting as close as possible. But the culture was shifting. The El Reno event also pushed for advances in radar technology and warning systems. Researchers used the unique data collected that day to refine models of multi-vortex tornadoes, hoping to close the deadly gap between what radar could see and what was happening on the ground. The legacy of El Reno is written not just in scientific papers, but in the cautious vigilance that now defines the chase. The storm proved that nature's extremes can outpace even our best understanding, demanding humility and constant adaptation from those who seek to study them. At its peak, the El Reno tornado reached a record width of 2.6 miles and produced radar-measured winds of 302 miles per hour, both unmatched in tornado history. Despite advanced forecasting and over 150 chase vehicles in the area, the storm's sudden changes in speed and direction, combined with rain-wrapped subvortices, left even veteran experts vulnerable. The deaths of Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Jung marked the first time professional storm chasers were killed in the field, sending shockwaves through the meteorological community. Though researchers now better understand the risks of multi-vortex, rain-wrapped tornadoes, questions remain about how to predict such erratic behavior in real time. The El Reno event led to new safety protocols and highlighted the limits of technology when facing nature's extremes. Today, every storm chase is shaped by the lessons of May 31st, 2013, a day that proved even the best prepared can be caught off guard by the unknown.